everyone. I'm Haley Watts. I brand a community here at Sploot Veterinary Care with clinics based in Colorado and Illinois, and I'm so excited to have you with us for this conversation. At Sploot, we're always looking for ways to raise the bar when it comes to veterinary care, not just for today's visit, but for a pet's whole life. That's why we're so proud to be the first veterinary clinic group in the United States to introduce DeepScan, a cutting-edge, cell-free DNA blood test that can detect underlying illnesses before traditional diagnostics even know where to look. Today, I'm joined by Franz Mittler, Chief Commercial Officer of DeepScan, and Gil Bulletin, co-CEO and co-founder here at Sploot, to talk about how this partnership is helping us rewrite the rules on early detection and proactive care, and what that means for the pets we love so much. Let's dive in. All right, first things first, Franz, what is DeepScan in simple terms?
Yeah. So DeepScan cfD test is a health marker that detects cell destruction. And the interesting thing about cell destruction is that a wide variety of different diseases directly translate into cell destruction. And you can see an increase in cell destruction already before you show any symptoms. So that gives you a tool to earlier than ever before be able to already see a ton of different pathological processes that you can then start treating.
Very cool. And then you've seen this happen, overseas in Europe where DeepScan has been used successfully. So what sort of real world impact have you seen so far?
Well, we started early on already working with some of the top vet hospitals all around Europe. So we're talking Slovenia, France, Netherlands, all over. And I think for me, kind of my favorite moment was when the first pet parent sent us an unsolicited mail that we're able to find something a bit more serious, unfortunately, but from a dog that showed no symptoms. So what they were able to do is start treatments early on, and the dog was able to fully recover, and then we got this fantastic happy email from the pet parent. And of course, now we're seeing more and more of those cases where we just one day receive an email from a clinic or a pet parent where we've been able to make a dent in their life in a positive way.
That's great. And Gil, kind of on the Sploot side of things, so bringing this to the United States, specifically to Sploot, is a pretty bold move. Why now? What made it the right time?
Yeah, we love bold in general. I think that, we're committed to preventative care, right? So what we do is primary and urgent care. One of the things that we actually strive to achieve is not seeing you for acute cases, but only seeing you for wellness visits, preventative care, etc. And with pets, unlike humans, they can describe symptoms. They can tell you, my leg, I feel aches in my leg, etc. So that's something that is a challenge for both, of course, pet parents, also the medical team. And I think bringing such an innovative technology to the US, allowing us to catch, I would say, certain illness early, even before symptoms occur, that's huge. And that's something that we really want to bring both as a company that is innovative, but especially to kind of like reduce stress for pet parents, give them that peace of mind, and making them kind of like act early. And we all know that vast majority of our clients will, of course, opt in for that. So that's something that was extremely excited. We got super excited about the technology. But I would say early on, we saw that both DeepScan and us, we share kind of like the same core values, exactly of kind of like reducing stress for pet parents, helping with preventative care, early diagnostics. So that's something that we were thrilled about.
We'll kind of rewind a little bit. So how did Sploot and DeepScan first cross paths? What was it that sort of sparked the conversation and the interest on both sides?
You are going to go first, Gil?
I think that actually we, like many things with, I would say with innovative companies, one of our team members was actually familiar with one of the folks at DeepScan, and kind of it saw like in an initial conversation. The moment we introduced that to the medical team, there was like such a huge excitement about it. And I think from there it was just like an easy and very, very quick conversation.
Very cool. So was there like a specific gap or opportunity that sort of made this feel like more than just a good idea, but something that is really, really worth pursuing? And I'd sort of love to hear what stood out from both sides.
For us at least, at the end of the day, what we're looking for in a partner is believability, and kind of looking at what that consists of. First would be hunger, kind of a hard to define thing, but we're talking about doing things through quality, being professional, ambitious, and really wanting to improve all the time. And a second thing what we're hoping to see in a partner is just the customer first approach. So all the things you're trying to approve are customer first. And third is just having a good stack of diagnostics and treatment tools and equipment. And it was crazy that the more we found out about Sploot, the more it felt like a dream, because all these different things really did translate into direct actions. So we've been super happy and excited to start working with Sploot.
Yeah,
That's
I'll
great.
definitely add to that. I think what beside the technology, which is incredible, and you're bringing, I would say, very advanced, even like human grade technology into the pet care space. Like Franz mentioned, it's honestly kind of like these core values of putting the pet parent first and the pet, and giving them just kind of like this very, very good experience, peace of mind. Both companies, right? We care deeply about the medicine, of course, but we also care about how that medicine gets delivered. So we want the visit to be clear, empowering, stress-free for pet parents. And we all know that I would say vet visits could be very emotional. And if we have the opportunity to reduce that stress, to reduce that level of kind of emotions, we're all in. So I think that's something that both companies are very much aligned on.
So it sounds kind of like, there was maybe a light bulb moment a little bit as the conversations kept on going and you realized that there are similar values and overlapping goals. And so it just sounds like this was sort of a natural fit. It wasn't anything that maybe had to be forced even a little bit.
Yeah, quite the contrary, I'd say. I already liked it when I went to the Sploot web pages originally, and I saw the care with compassion part. And I remember thinking that I wonder what this really means in kind of actions taken. And one thing that really stood out to me, because I've had quite a few discussions by now with different clinics and different companies, and one thing that hasn't happened anywhere else was kind of the shared value base that Gil also alluded to. So people really wanted to understand why we want to exist as a company, and even on a personal level, why I decided to work for DeepScan. And I thought that spoke volumes just about what a strong emphasis on shared values and kind of that commitment to compassionate care that Sploot showed.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, Haley. You kind of like mentioned whether it happened fast. It did. Um, so in my previous life, I was doing business development and also some sales to an extent, and I would say it was the fastest cycle I've ever seen. Like things move like pretty quickly. It was like a perfect match. And when we have a problem that we see as a company, or we see that our clients and pet parents and pets have a certain problem that we're trying to solve, and the folks are coming with such a great solution, it's very fast. So it was like a perfect fit.
What does the process look like to get DeepScan fully integrated within the clinics? Sort of from an operational standpoint, can clients start requesting this test right now? Is there any special equipment that's involved?
Spence, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. So not really any special equipment. So we do have a special protocol that we're gonna go through then at our lab, but the actual process is designed to be as easy as possible to the pet parents. So it's just a small blood draw, and we kind of take care of the rest, so to speak. So based on that, we're able to already look at the cell destruction.
Sure. And walk me through when you get the blood, it's at the lab, you're looking at the cell activity. What do those levels tell you? Are you able to sort of discern something based on one test? Is there an importance of coming back and retesting and sort of setting a baseline? What does that look like?
Yeah. So kind of the really biggest secret sauce that we have is the amount of dogs we had to test to understand what's to be considered within reference rate. Because the thing is that humans and animals alike, we have a certain amount of cell destruction in our bloodstream all the time. And what we really wanted to understand is that based on breed and age and weight and some other factors as well, when should it be considered to be above reference range? So we tested thousands of dogs before we came out with the test itself in a commercial setting. And when you do the first test, it's basically a snapshot of that particular time of how much cell destruction there is. And should it be above reference range, the more we use this in a proactive way, whatever we find, hopefully it's going to be just mildly above reference range. And at that point, since this is not the diagnostic tools that tells you specifically what the dog has, because the range of things we're able to find is everything from chronic inflammation to organ damage to many different cancers. But what we've seen that once it's above reference range, you do a test, the same test 2-3 weeks later, so kind of a follow-up, the trend will tell you a ton. So whether it's increasing or whether it stays stable or even goes down, that's really something that's of big value to the vet to kind of make sure that the next steps that might be taken are the best possible ones.
Sure. And what does the cell activity tell you? It's not a diagnostic tool, but it tells you what the cells are doing, which could then mean certain health issues are happening. Is that correct?
Yes. Depending on how far a certain illness is, it's going to affect the amount of cell destruction in the bloodstream. And it's interesting because cell destruction is so delicate that we see a multiple in cell destruction. So we're not talking about a couple of percentage points, for example, but in cases of osteoarthritis, we're already seeing multiples, and heavier, for example, cancer cases, we can see even 1,000-fold of cell destruction. And the earlier we are, the first test will hopefully just show mildly above, but what we've seen that if the follow-up test keeps on in multiples growing, then that's a sign of kind of having to look into heavier diagnostic solutions at that point, while something that stays about stable is usually something of chronic inflammation or for example, milder organ damage.
Gotcha. And because you've tested on thousands of dogs, it sounds like there are different standards of cell activity for different breeds or maybe different sizes. Can you speak a little bit to some of the differences there?
Yeah, we're crunching data all the time, so it's cool that already when it comes to kind of the sensitivity of the test being able to identify different diseases. There was one certain cancer, for example, where we had a sensitivity of 80-something%, and just 6 months later, it jumped with 10% more. So kind of the iteration speed we're able to do with the volumes we're already seeing is very, very good. And of course, something we're optimizing for kind of being a customer first company, which in this case especially of course means vets. The more we can help vets, the easier it is for them to help the pet parents and dogs themselves for better outcomes. So we're doing a lot of research to really see how these different diseases behave to even give more accurate information. but kind of between breeds and ages and weight, the biggest factor has actually been weight. So that affects the basic levels of cell destruction we see, but then the prevalence of certain diseases again are then breed based. So we kind of have this definition of what high risk breeds are. So we're talking about Bernese mountain dogs, boxer, golden retrievers, Labrador retrievers, German shepherds. So in breeds like these, we recommend that when they come in for wellness checks already from the age 4 and upwards, they would do the cfD test, while then some other breeds that are not known for having the same prevalence of certain diseases, then starting at the age of 6 and above.
Sure.
So we've been able to kind of tailor based on breeds as well when the recommended age begins.
Sure. And you kind of answered part of my next question here is, when should people be getting this test? So sounds like it can happen at, your annual wellness exam, or maybe if you are just curious and want to get your pup tested, but different ages, right? It's maybe not going to be as telling on a dog that's 1, 2, or 3 years old, versus a dog that's, between 7 and 10 years old.
Correct. And actually that's an important point, because dogs that are under 3 are still developing in a way that actually you have an increase in cell destruction. So if you have a dog under 3, we don't even recommend doing the cfD test yet. That's hopefully something we're able to also kind of increase through data to be able to understand if we're able to catch some diseases there as well. But in any case, as we all know, the older you get, the higher the odds are that there's something that could be treated.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. And to clarify, this is only for dogs right now. Is that correct? Not cats?
That's correct. Yes. So we're working on cats and horses, for example, as well. Oh, so definitely gathering samples, and that's gonna come at some point. But for right now, it's dogs.
Yeah.
And the use case I'm most excited about, that I think is going to have the largest impact, is as Gil said, just proactively coming in for example, for a wellness check, when the dog hopefully has no symptoms, because the earlier we're able to catch stuff, the better the odds are that not only are the treatment outcomes going to be better, but also we're able to manage the disease before it translates into, for example, pain.
Gil, a test like this is something that I know, me as a double dog owner, very appealing for me, and I'm sure appealing for most of the population who own dogs. How accessible is this from a financial standpoint?
Yeah, so we're talking, it's very accessible. We're talking about $80 overall in terms of cost, which for such an advanced technology, and honestly, if you're thinking about the preventive care that you can actually follow through with and prevent like acute illness later, you're saving probably a lot of money overall. And I think it's also worth, from my perspective, at least, just like the peace of mind. The one important thing to mention was something that was extremely appealing to us, especially the affordability of the test. It does make it accessible to many pet parents. It makes it accessible to do, honestly, on an ongoing basis. We're not talking about every month, but it depends on the doctors and the recommendation overall. But I'll give my example, right? It's from our perspective, it's also a way to identify, in a certain case, illnesses that are not necessarily, as we mentioned before. Some of them could be very severe, some of them are not, and are related more of like the lifestyle and well-being of the pet. Some concerns that we're hearing from many pet parents, I can tell you it's top of mind for me. For example, I have almost like 4-year-old pup, and she's very active, and there is like I would say, fine balance between, like walking her and hiking with her, and taking her to like very long hikes, and in a sense contributing to her health on the one hand, on the other hand, creating damage, because if we are overdoing that, unlike human, it's not that she can
raise her paw and say, hey, okay, like let's stop, she'll just like follow through with everything you ask her to do. So what we want to make sure is that we're not creating like ongoing damage of like overuse, especially like joint damage. And one of the things I wanted to do is to do that test as a benchmark to understand kind of like where she's at today when she's like relatively young and healthy. And then as we progress, maybe do like another test, like a year from now, and then see are things are kind of like the same, or are we creating damage to her joints that we didn't intend. So that's something that is huge. So the affordability makes it relevant both for like, oh, I actually have a concern, or my dog is at risk because of age, because of breed, etc., or just making sure that in terms of kind of like well-being and lifestyle wise, your dog is relatively healthy.
So it almost sounds like for certain breeds, you can start doing this test as early as 4 years old. Just building that into your annual wellness exam is probably the best route to go until you start to see something unusual, and then you can test a bit more frequently.
Yeah, the way the test works is that not only are we going to tell you if your dog is within reference range or above and by how much, but also their CFD score. So you're going to have a number as well. So once Gil has tested his dog, he is going to see at this age, at this time, what the CFD score was. So when he tests his dog the next time, he's able to compare scores and kind of one of the experiments and research things we've done is that we had 400 or we still have 400 healthy dogs that we test every quarter to see how CFD behaves. So kind of how stable is it when the dog is healthy, and what we've been able to see is that it very much stays stable. So kind of the comparison aspect as well, when you get the number, is a pretty cool thing, I'd say. So you have kind of this unique benchmark.
And is this sort of testing for the benchmarks or sort of analyzing the data? I mean, that's ongoing, right? So is there potential to have new benchmarks for certain breeds over time as more and more dogs get tested, or as cell activity changes? Or would you say that the benchmarks that we have now are relatively stable? They may have a little bit of variance, or do you foresee them potentially having a drastic change?
I don't think a drastic change is likely, having tested so many thousands of dogs, but kind of the granularity level of it, of how closely we're able to zoom on things, there I definitely expect for us to just keep on improving. But the cool thing is that that's not going to affect the score that your dog got, and you're able to compare. So we definitely want to do our best so that it translates to the coming years as well when you do the test.
Franz, you're based in Finland. Gil, you're here in Denver. What's it like been working together across continents and collaborating, not just the time zone difference, that's the most obvious, but, potentially two different styles of working, two different ways of operating, two very different companies, two continents. What's it like?
Yes, I would say sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I would say from our perspective, it's as we mentioned before, it's just like culturally, it's a great fit. We are a startup or a scale-up company. DeepScan is a startup and a scale-up company, and I think both of us appreciate innovation, appreciate kind of like the impact. We're very focused on, I would say, generating that impact and bringing that to the customers and pet parents. So it's both of the teams are very nimble. So we do move fast. We do focus on what matters. There aren't like 70 layers of approvals that you need to take. So I would say the work has been extremely efficient, very collaborative. We're very humble with what we do, and we know kind of like the science and the know-how is within Francis and the team. So we kind of like let them, let's say, teach us everything about it. And there was like a lot of brainstorming and collaboration around it, which we love. Overall, time zone is not, of course, it would have been better if we were in the same time zone. But I don't feel that it hinders us in any way that we work remotely. And France and the team, again, they visit here every once in a while. And I think also like there is nothing like this in-person connection. So I think that the DeepScan team actually took the time. France came here to get to know the team, interact with the team on a personal level, on a professional level. That goes a long way in terms of pushing that forward. So it has been an amazing experience to work with you guys.
Thank you. Likewise. I think the kind of base we share as companies is so similar, whether it's an ability to learn and really focus on what's essential and really rapidly being able to iterate, doesn't really see the borders in a nice way, because the ambition is very much shared. So and from my perspective, kind of with the time difference with Finland being later in the day is quite the luxury, because I'm able to kind of execute stuff before you wake up. So I'm happier it's this way than you kind of spending a whole day trying to reach me. So it's better this way for sure. Yeah.
That is so funny. That kind of, I was gonna ask, like, has there been anything kind of like fun or unique or any, moments like that have sort of stood out? And it's funny that you think about it that way, and I think that sort of lends itself to how you approach this partnership, and it's very proactively, and it's sort of thinking about what's most convenient for the other party. And I just had to call that out because I think that's a really really fun quality.
No, thank you.
Have there been any sort of like cultural, like aha moments or like unexpected lessons that have come up? Because I'm just sort of always curious as to what either gets lost or gained in translation.
If we've lost something in translation, I'm not aware of it yet. So please do let me know if that has happened. But I think I have a slight edge in the sense that kind of my previous work took me to Milwaukee, so I worked there for a while, and I worked in cross-border transactions for quite a few years as well, where very often one of the parties was from the States. So that goes a long way. So in total, I've spent over one year in the States by now. So that's definitely helpful, I'd say. But one thing that stands out that just, every time I come back to Finland and I think that, okay, what's kind of one of the secret sauces I'd love to sprinkle in Finland is just the kind of amount of warmth you're able to bring in to kind of a context of ambition and professionality. So even if Finland, I think by now has 8 times been elected as the happiest country in the world, we still on average were like a country of engineers and on average maybe a little bit introverted. So the way you're able to combine warmth and professionalism is something that keeps on inspiring me on a personal level for sure.
From the Sploot side of things, how have you and the medical team sort of approached onboarding and training around this new tool? It's a pretty advanced concept, so how are we making this, as approachable as possible for our vets and techs on the ground?
Yeah, so one thing that is very, very important is you kind of mentioned in your question is the training of the medical team and in-clinic team. We will not be able to deliver it without it. At the end of the day, education here is key, both for the pet parents, and then we need to train, kind of like also like train the trainers in a sense. So we need to have a lead on our end that trains and teaches everyone in the clinic, the medical staff. When Franz was here, it was actually extremely helpful. He was in the clinics, in the different clinics as well, also meeting with the different leads on the ground, talking with them, answering all the questions. There were many, which is very, very natural for such an innovative and advanced technology and such a unique test. It's not something that is standard by any means in the industry, and I think in general. So there was a lot of there was a learning curve here on our team side, understanding the capabilities of the test, kind of like the different use cases, the limitations, and kind of like how also to convey that to pet parents. And I think that was extremely helpful in terms of training the team. So it was more of like a joint, I would say, effort. We know the team, of course, best. Friends and the DeepScan team, they have much more experience in terms of like implementing that across like different clinics. So they brought that experience. It was extremely helpful for us. And now I would say we started rolling it out across the different clinics. That was kind of like more on the team side. We do on the digital side, I would say we do help the team as well. And we will provide, say, personalized recommendations for pet parents and give them the heads up. At the end of the day, you cannot really beat like this in-person conversation and interaction with the vet. So we think that's kind of like the key. And I would say all the digital education, it's a little bit of kind of like cherry at the top.
Sure. That's great. So we're gonna kind of move into what's coming next. So, Gil, when did DeepScan officially launch at Sploot?
So just a few weeks ago, and we rolled it out across clinics, and we've been pushing it again. I would say very, very gradually because it does take time until everyone feels comfortable with it. So I would say we started slow and we will accelerate pretty quickly in the next few weeks. Our goal at the end of the day that in a few months, again, that's kind of like the vision here that many pet parents will actually see the value, will understand what the test does, and will opt in. Of course, if they want to, we're not trying to convince anyone. It's more of kind of like a decision of the pet parent, and I would say kind of risk mitigation on their end. But our hope is that people will definitely see the value, will kind of like say at the end of the day, oh my God, I'm so happy to have that type of test. I have so much more visibility right now towards my pet's health. Whether they discover anything or not, hopefully they will not discover anything wrong, and most of the tests will actually be used as kind of like, I would say, a baseline. But just understanding kind of like the technology, the advantage, and what it helps you to achieve, that's going to be a huge win. So if we are able to educate all of our pet parents and make them see the value in that test, whether they decide to opt in for it or not, that's already a huge success.
Sure. And Franz, kind of in that same vein, what does success look like for DeepScan over the next 6 months here in the United States?
Yeah, we're in a very exciting stage right now. So we actually have more clinics wanting to work with us than we can at any time onboard. So in the fall, we're hopefully going to cover about 20 different states. And then we're ramping up Europe as well. So there's going to be a big focus on UK and then opening a couple of new countries as well, Belgium and Portugal.
That's great.
But at this point, I really think that the main purpose of, for example, my work is to do a ton of non-scalable work to really see what helps the vets, the technicians, the nurses, everyone at Sploot to talk about it and provide it to the customers, and then making sure that we're staying on top of things, whether it means new materials or something else. So it was cool, for example, to have all the different discussions at the different clinics, because I was immediately able to, once I recognized the pattern of questions, something of interest, I contacted our lab team, and they already started working on the next materials that we're gonna provide to everyone within Sploot.
So, for other innovators or people who are trying to bring new tech into the veterinary space, what advice would you give them? And either of you can take this question.
I think from our side, the two things we've really been able to emphasize, and I think are key to be successful, is one, really taking care of the people you work with. Because you can have the nicest sounding mission and you can have a great strategy on paper, but if you're not able to empower the people you work with, you basically have nothing. So that's something we really worked hard on the deep scan side of things, and I can see it paying off each and every day. because when work becomes meaningful and you have fun at the same time, really the capacity you're able to open up immediately translates into better work as well. So that's definitely one key thing. And the other one is just I think a pretty old wisdom at this point, but to stay kind of customer obsessed, because one thing that's really surprised me within diagnostics is that many diagnostics companies think that it's all about just the pet parent, and they've skipped the vet side of things, which has been surprising to see, because kind of in aggregate, the amount that the nurses and the vets know is very much the key. When you're solving their pain points, at the end of the day, they're talking about pet parents' pain points or desires or challenges. So we're keeping our ear close to the ground and take pride in being able to iterate quickly, and then really making sure we validate the small things as well. Sometimes people try to polish something too long before they show it to the market, and it's easy to at that point miss the mark because you haven't really validated it step by step by the ones who actually are going to use any given service or product.
Sure.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that in a business that is, in a sense, is B2B2C, right? So your end user is the customer, is the pet parent. But at the end of the day, you're selling that through the clinics, through providers, through veterinarians. So you have two clients, right? So one, you need to get a buy-in from first and foremost, from the provider, from the veterinary clinic. And after that, you need to do a good job in introducing kind of like the benefits of that product and communicate that well to the pet parent, to the end client. And I think getting the feedback loop from both, it's something that is challenging. I think like Franz and the team actually is doing a great job in kind of like understanding that, and I think they already have that experience. But I think it's just going to be key for us, even when we're talking about maybe more of like the U.S. client. It could even differ between different states, right, or different cities. So how do we actually understand what resonates with, people at Denver versus people in Chicago versus people like elsewhere in the United States, or what was resonating for you guys in Europe? They're probably going to be different. I would say both on the pet parent side as well as like providers. I think that you do have differences, but you can do, in a sense, if you want to execute well, you need to be 10 out of 10 with the providers and make sure that they have like full buy-in with the product, as well as the end user, who is the pet parent.
Here.
Great. Well, that's kind of a perfect bookend to this conversation. So thank you guys both so much for being here. If people want to find out more information about DeepScan and about potentially getting their pups signed up for one, Gil, where should they go?
They can go to our website. So www.splootVets.com. You're going to see, again, at the menu there, you have a link towards additional information about DeepScan. And I think you can also find it online. Let Franz touch the DeepScan element.
Yeah.
Yes. So we also are just actually adding Sploot there and the clinic locations and addresses. So if you want to learn more about us as a company or the test or finding the closest Sploot clinic, then it would be deepscandx.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you both so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
DeepScan is helping us make the invisible visible, and that's a game changer for both pet parent and veterinary teams. By detecting early signs of cancer, organ damage, and other chronic conditions through a simple non-invasive blood test, we're opening the door to earlier intervention, better outcomes, and more peace of mind. If you're heading into a Sploot clinic soon, ask our team about the new cell-free DNA test. We'd love to walk you through how it works and why it matters. Thanks so much for tuning in, and a big, big thank you to Franz and Gil for sharing their insight, their passion, and a look into what's next.